Let's go. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeremy Epstein, the host of Business Model Lab from Air Miners, your lovely CDR meetup group on Slack. Today, we've got a team of Air Miners' own who developed their startup out of a problem pack hosted through Air Miners. It's called Thanks a Ton, and we've got the three founders, Siobhan Lavender, Karen Mazzano, and Laura Katayama here to tell their story, answer your questions, and really spread the stoke about starting a business in CDR. Just to tell you, was it hard? Was it easy? What are the challenges they're facing? This is an interesting sort of picks and shovels business. They're not necessarily out there pulling carbon out of the air themselves, but they're helping to create demand within the industry. So I think it's a really interesting thing to dive into and learn a little bit more about. So without further ado, I'm going to just hand the proverbial microphone over to Siobhan to tell us about the business, tell us where did the idea come from, and share a little bit of slides and perhaps a bit of their web content to give us an idea of what is going on over at Thanks a Ton. Siobhan?
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Jeremy. And thanks everybody for jumping on to this call to learn about Thanks a Ton. As Jeremy mentioned, we came out of Problem Pack, which are now known as Climate Sprints. They're fantastic, highly recommend it. We can drop a link to the Climate Sprints website in here. But we were, I think, the first cohort of these Climate Sprints back in February of this year. And we actually came together. We didn't know each other. We were not looking to start a company. We were not looking to do any of this. We just wanted to get involved and be part of this problem pack. Met each other. We're working with a larger group. Had a really good time with that problem pack. Didn't really solve the issue we were tackling, but we did meet each other. And while we were working together on this problem pack, Dr. Karen Mazzano, coming to us live from Paris over there, jokingly said, we should start a company called Thanks a Ton, where we gift carbon dioxide removal. Just straight up as a joke. But then kind of as time went on, she reached out and she's like, well, should we talk about this? And Laura and I were the ones who perhaps foolishly, perhaps in our endearing wisdom, jumped on with her and said, yeah, let's talk about gifting carbon dioxide removal. And so we started working together, the three of us, in probably early March around then on Thanks a Ton. And, you know, classic, I feel like startup story is that you don't really know what you're doing that much. We're all first-time co-founders. You know, we all have kind of different backgrounds and different areas of expertise in this industry. But we're really fortunate that we found each other. We work really well together and started kind of building the company. And it's very apropos that we're here in Air Miners doing this, because we are all Air Miners and really attribute the Air Miners community to the start of this and this idea. And so what we first started doing was just kind of asking around in the community, how should we go about this? Is this even a good idea? What are your thoughts? Give us some feedback. And then little by little, we kind of got the ball rolling and found a fantastic web developer who we're bootstrapped, by the way. This is a bootstrap startup. And originally we were paying him, and then he liked us and the idea enough that we kind of hooked him, and he's come on with us full time now, or for the indefinite future. And we have a few interns working with us, which has been great. We have an art director, we have a project manager. We're working with some local artists in California. And yeah, it's really kind of taken off over the last 6 months. So our business model basically is not reinventing the wheel. We are gifting carbon dioxide removal. You come onto the platform, we are Thanks a Ton, it's a pun. And so we lean into that and we gift it by the ton. You can send someone a thank you card and you say, thanks a ton, and then they get a ton of carbon dioxide removal. I'm gonna show you guys, you're very fortunate, we are very fortunate that just in the nick of time, our beta went up today. We've been working on it for quite a while now. And so I'm gonna share screen with you and show you guys some of the beta site. So this is what we're working with here. So if you go to thanksaton.earth, currently you'll see our landing page for our launch, and then we have our beta site. Everyone seeing this?
Ooh, yes, we see it. Looks good.
All right, so this is what we're working with here. So you come onto the site and we really, we started as a pun and as a joke. So we want to walk that balance between injecting humor and levity into this space, but also like, we're not messing around. We're here to remove carbon dioxide and we're here to get more people removing carbon dioxide. And so here we go. You come on in and we have our hero text here and then the kind of classic how it works. This is our kind of cheeky take on the three-part how it works. And so you're gifting a ton of CO2. It's causing CO2 to be removed and stored. We always say that when we talk about thanks a ton, half of our goal is to crowdsource carbon dioxide removal. We recognize that 1 ton here and 1 ton there is not very significant, but ideally if we crowdsource it and build up a following, it could be removed on a larger scale. But probably the more impactful goal that we have, which is the other 50% of our goal, is to really get people excited about carbon dioxide removal, engaging with it, knowledgeable about it. I think we all come, or certainly Kara and I come from like climate backgrounds, and even a lot of my friends in different climate communities might kind of have heard of carbon dioxide removal, but don't really actively understand it. And so we want to be a bridge to those people so that they can understand it. And really gifting is a bridge already because you're already involving more than one person. When you gift something, you have the gifter and the recipient. So you'll be able to come on and we have our different methods for removing carbon dioxide here. Now we partner with, obviously we are the middleman here. We are not doing the carbon dioxide removal ourselves. But we're very fortunate that everybody we've asked to work with has wanted to work with us. So that's been really great. And people have been very supportive in our community. And so you come on and again, this whole process is supposed to get you excited about it, but also learning about it, right? So just by looking at this, you already know that there's such a thing as different methods to remove carbon dioxide. So you come on and you say, okay, I want to do, these are obviously not the prices. These are all placeholders. This is just a beta. And so you come on and you say, I want to do reforestation. And you want to send somebody a reforestation card. And then, so you come into the checkout process here and you're able to, let this load for a second. And you're able to pick kind of a fun, cheeky design. And, you send this, to your direct report and say, thanks so much for getting your numbers up this quarter, whatever it is. But it's really a way of kind of signaling to them, like, I want to thank you, but I also want to put this weight behind it of like caring about the environment, doing an action, and also kind of educating the other person. I think a lot of us, certainly on this call and in Air Miners, are carbon nuts. Like we're all just nuts about this and we already know a lot about it. But this is an option to kind of bring other people into that fold by gifting them something, by getting them that little connection. And so you can add your recipient in here and you can type a little message to whomever you're gifting this to. And then we have of course, our checkout, and then you send it. And it won't let me because it's the beta site and I haven't edited the card.
Hey, it's looking great for a beta site.
Oh, thank you. You're obviously, of course, welcome to follow us on our socials. Fair warning, we mostly just post memes, but we're also working on kind of our more educational, like fun educational content, little explainers, little fun facts, stuff like that. One of our most important pages is our kind of our science page, what we call. And so this is a placeholder photo that we're borrowing from Charm, one of our suppliers. But you come on here and then you kind of get to learn a little bit about like, why do we need CDR? What is it, And so this is where we want to kind of try and bring in some jovial but very factual content to get people knowing about and excited about CDR. And in our dream, this becomes like this playground, right? Where you're just having so much fun learning about CDR and it becomes very interactive. We're huge fans of the Road to 10 Gigatons game that John Sanchez, Max Piscata, and I'm forgetting who else, Cassandra put together. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of, an inspiration to us is how do we kind of gamify this and make it really engaging. And so you'll be able to kind of learn more here. This is just our first rough start. We've got tons of options. and then you get to learn about each individual method. Again, we try to keep this pretty bite-sized. This is a lot of text, but we're trying to keep it bite-sized. And this is obviously, if you want to really learn about this stuff, there are other resources that we will point you to, but this is for those that are not particularly exposed to CDR. We talk about permanence, we talk about additionality. You're welcome to join our mailing list, so you can get jokes and memes sent to your inbox. And yeah, this takes you right to the checkout process. Anyways, I'm going to stop screen sharing, but we can jump back on as people have questions and if you want to explore a little bit more about this stuff. But this is what the site's going to look like. And yeah, ideally, we're going to be going live with a limited launch in the next couple of weeks. Now, the reason we're doing a limited launch is because we have all sorts of constraints. And because, to be fair, the actual carbon market has constraints in terms of supply, as most of us know. That there is currently a lot of demand for carbon credits mostly within industries who are purchasing offsets. And we're kind of trying to target a new tier of buyers. That's kind of our original goal is going to be B2C. But then to scale the business, we would love to go B2B and get companies like the Stripes of the world and the Microsofts of the world that are deeply dedicated to reversing climate change. We could, do B2B where they use it to onboard people or they use it internally for thank you cards. We're also, we're leaning into the pun, and that's why we're sending thank you cards, and that's why we're sending it by the ton. That's for the moment. We would really like to build it out so that we're selling in smaller quantities to kind of also, right now we're kind of overvaluing in terms of price point the nature-based solutions because they're the cheapest and most accessible. We recognize that most people are not going to want to spend a $600 on a thank you card, although we hope some people will. That said, we think, again, the value of having a company like Charm Industrial with their $600 tons on the site is, again, getting people to be like, okay, well, why is this $600? And why is, reforestation $30? And, and then we can talk about, well, the cost of doing it, the permanence, we can kind of bring in these other elements as people are shopping and learning. So that's our goal. I mean, that's just kind of the rough overview. We can jump into some questions now. Laura handles most of our operations and Kara is our science whiz. And so they'll jump in and answer some questions with me. But yeah, we're curious, guys. We have not validated this yet. Our limited launch is coming, and that should hopefully give us some data points to work with in terms of validating our concept. So we would love feedback. We are always welcome to support. Anybody's also we're very open to our community. People sometimes from work on climate jump into our meetings just because they want to learn and they want to get the lay of the land of carbon or something like that. So anybody on this call, anybody watching this, reach out and you're welcome to kind of connect with us and find ways to participate or help out or learn something or contribute.
That's great. All right, guys, it looks like we've already got some questions in the Q&A box. This is great. Siobhan and team are asking for your feedback. So based on what you've seen here, definitely, think of what questions come to mind. I'll just start real quick and then we can get to some of the questions that we have. So who do you see? You're saying, you're going to launch going to direct or business to consumer B2C. Who do you see as that sort of archetype of your typical customer, at least to start? And do you think that you can get some momentum, build some education in the marketplace and see that evolve with time to sort of grab a bigger part of the market?
Yeah, great question. So we basically have two kind of customer profiles. And our first is our early adopters. And the early adopters are going to be all of you guys who care about CDR, people in our various climate communities, My Climate Journey, Work on Climate, et cetera. Because you're the people that really care about carbon dioxide and think it's fun to gift it. And so that's going to be kind of our early adopter are going to be these carbon nuts and climate nuts. But then the people that we hope to scale the business and really the audience we'd like to target for the educational purpose are people that are climate aware and climate concerned, but maybe aren't actively involved in the climate sphere. And we think this is a method of lowering the participatory hurdle for those people because you get to buy a card. It's a very known commodity. It's a very known interface. It's nothing kind of outside the ordinary for someone. And then by gifting it, you're also looping someone else into the concept of carbon dioxide removal, right? So when you get the card, you'll get this little card saying, thanks a ton. So-and-so just removed a ton of carbon dioxide for you. What does that mean? And so then there'll be like a little link to learn more. And hopefully people will take advantage of that and want to think, oh, what is this thing called biochar? Or what is this thing mineralization? And via that, they'll learn more.
So is it an e-card or is it a physical card that gets mailed to them?
Great question. E-card. Yes. Low carbon footprint. Maybe someday when we're, people like carbon upcycling technologies, is that who does the carbon negative ink and stuff like that? Maybe someday there'll be a way to send a paper carbon negative card or something like that. But for the moment, it's just all e-cards.
Great. I'm gonna now crowdsource a couple of questions that people are asking. I think Laura's providing some answers, but I think it's good to kind of open these up and let viewers know what other people are asking. I guess from a nuts and bolts perspective, you guys are formed. I know, Siobhan, you're actually in Mexico City. Are you guys formed in the US as an LLC?
Laura, you want to take that one?
Yes, we're California LLC. And we aspire to become a B Corp as we grow.
Excellent. And I think it's really good for people who are thinking about starting their own business, maybe haven't gone down this road before. Tell me how difficult it was to go on and register an LLC.
That part was actually very easy.
Yeah, it's
one of the
crazy
easiest things
easy.
I've
People
done.
think of this as a hurdle, and it's you can get that done in about 15 minutes while you're on a call with someone else. It's not difficult to do.
Yeah, that was one of the easiest things we've done. Coming up with the operating agreement and figuring out how we were going to work together, share our responsibilities. Those are things that have evolved based on each of our talents. But some of the business organization things have been I've really struggled with, figuring out the tax question, sales tax. Is there sales tax? Is there not sales tax? We're selling a virtual card with an intangible carbon credit. And each state has different laws. And each country has different laws. So if we sell in the EU, we will have to comply with their laws. If we sell in Alaska versus Florida, California, we have to follow all the state laws. So that's really complex. I've had to find some resources to help me tackle that question.
Mm-hmm. In my experience, there tends to be some software as a service, or there's some business out there to fill every one of those niche needs for your business. Whether you want to pay for their service or try to do it yourself kind of depends on how much volume you're seeing and et cetera. But that's been my experience, is wow, there's something to sort of solve for that problem that is supposed to make that easier for you. And whether or not it makes sense to use it really depends on how much volume you're doing at the moment.
How much money you have to work with at the beginning. Since we're bootstrapped, we're trying to DIY as many things as we can to get off the ground and add services as we scale and need them.
And so it's the three of you, but then you mentioned, and this is never a bad thing, that you hired a web dev person, and they liked the idea so much they said, "Hey, let me keep working for you." Was that an exchange for now they're some part ownership of the concept and of the business now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they're coming on partner number one, employee number one for equity. And he's been fantastic. Daniel out of LA. He built the TED Ed website. Fantastic web developer. Fantastic guy to work with. We're very fortunate that he wanted to stick around.
That's great. I would say that's a good signal, because he probably is working on multiple projects and probably isn't asking for that sort of arrangement with all of them. So that bodes well, I would say. And as a startup, I suppose that's really sort of your currency, is equity before you have a whole lot of cash flow. And so that's, I'm sure that was something to think about before, giving away a little bit. But there's always that fine balance, right? Of like, how much do you want to give away versus, the alternative is, well, you've got to pay for the service. So feel free to skip, pass on this question. I didn't even prep you for it. Can I ask sort of ballpark, like what has been the cost to get to this point? I think that's something
Totally. No, we're happy to
start businesses want to
question.
know, like how much do you have to dump in to get to the point where you've got a beautiful looking beta website and a great concept, and you're thinking about, hey, we're going to soft launch in the next, period of time. That seems like
I think that's a super important question.
Yeah.
But I think it's also really important that we talk about when discussing startups, the reality that either you have to really, kick your butt and do this after work hours, or you have to leave your job and take some sort of pay cut, or there has to be some sort of, I think we expect a lot out of founders, but the reality is to make something truly successful, you need to dedicate a lot of time to it. We are all three mothers of children of different ages. A big part of why we do what we do is because we care about the carbon parts per million content in the atmosphere in our lifetime and in theirs. And so we all have like child responsibilities that we're juggling. This is one of the few times we've probably made sure that our children are not just jumping in and crawling all over us and asking for things. But if you jump into a meeting with us, as I've invited you to do, you will absolutely, absolutely guarantee see that. So it's also about like the money you put in, the time you put in that you're not making money, kind of creating this work-life balance. And I tell my husband who works in tech all the time, I'm like, are we just going to fail because we're not like tech bros that live in an apartment together and eat ramen and do this like 14 hours a day? Like, and so we'll see, like, we're trying to kind of do a different model from the model I'm familiar with, having lived in the Bay Area before Mexico City, of like how a tech company gets started. So yeah, we all work on this most time. Kara is also doing fantastic work over at the Climate Map. And I was working for Polima before this and then had to step away because I was focusing all my time on this. Laura's coming to us from LA and she does this pretty much full time. And so it's also kind of like how much we're putting in and then what's kind of time commitment, how to make that work. In terms of finances, yeah, we've bootstrapped this. We've all put in money and I'm happy to share that. Laura, you want to take that since you do have finances?
I'm sorry, I was answering a question. What did you want me to talk about?
Oh, just so I can take this one. So it's taken us about 15K to get to where we are so far.
About 17. Yeah, we're up to about 17,000. Yeah.
I see who's keeping the books at this company.
Well, thankfully, my husband's an accountant, so I have help.
There you go.
But it's taken about 17,000. A lot of that money has gone for art direction and our website design. And those are big expenses. And then, small expenses like, Google Suite, Slack channels, and all of that.
It all add up, it's like these little $10, $15, $20 charges, but you're like, oh, we have like 50 of those.
It does it. And it can be like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Because once you get a year or two in, you realize, we've got 40 services running and like, whoa, what's the total bill for that at the end of the month? It's always something I recommend people once they get to like that 1 to 2 year stage, like when you take a look at everything and see if you really need to spend on all this, because it like you said, it adds up.
The good thing is for anybody looking to start a company, pretty much all of those services have like freemium versions, so you can start, like we started just talking, we got a Slack rolling, after our first meeting and, you can just start with the free version. And then as you need, you start paying for it. And same thing with a lot of these services. I think we're still using our free Later account for social media management because we haven't run out of our post allotment yet, but then we'll have to pay for that too.
And of course, our other big expense is buying the inventory of carbon credits. So, finding the supply, confirming that they're the quality credits that we want to sell on our website, because we really want to promote trust and involvement with our customer base. So we're very selective about which credits we're selling and then obtaining the credits. It's still, the market's a hodgepodge right now. I think it will consolidate over time and grow, But
Mhm.
right now it's a legitimate constraint.
I'd love to talk a little bit about the procurement and sort of the product end of things. If you guys are okay switching topics for a moment. I know we have some Q&As, I promise we'll get back to those. But since Laura brought it up, so where are you procuring the carbon removal from currently? And do you see that, how do you see that evolving over time?
Kara, you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So we are working right now with 5 different companies, one for each, not each method of CDR, but right now we have one company per method. For soils, we're working with Nori. For reforestation, we're working with a group out of Ireland called Forestry Partners. And they do all reforestation with native species, and they work with the government of Ireland. And they are sort of reforesting with the intent to have the forest be open to the public. It's all public. For mineralization, we're working with green sand. Biochar, we're working with Pacific Biochar, and bio oil, we're working with Charm. One of the things we've had a really hard time with is finding an ocean-based project. So that's maybe one ask we have, is if anybody knows of any quality removals for an ocean-based project, please let us know.
Yeah, that's good to know. So yeah, so if anyone has ideas on where to source those, either raise your hand now or follow up with the team at some point. Might also indicate a bit of
6 months from now, if you find something out.
Right, yeah.
And the challenge
Yeah.
again for us in finding these credits has been actually finding people that have available credits. As soon as we find someone with available credits, we've been really fortunate that everyone we've talked to has been happy to sell credits to us. It's just a matter of a lot of these really quality projects are selling out very quickly.
So having never actually purchased a CDR credit myself, like, can you give us just a quick, I don't know, just a storyline of like, how does that transaction occur and how do they prove that like that credit is retired? Or, I mean, what do they provide you upon you reaching out to Green Sands and saying, hey, based on this month's activity, we need 10 tons, or do you need a pre-purchase? I mean, just give us an idea of how that works as sort of the middle women in the process.
Yeah, great question. So basically right now we think, again, like this idea of having like a chain of authenticity is important. That's happening in the entire CDR space in general right now, as a lot of people are talking about, do we use blockchain? How do we prevent double counting? How do we make sure that these credits are being retired, et cetera? So that's something that's going to be ongoing for us. And we're also welcome to have it, would love advice and suggestions on. Right now, we get, because all suppliers are different too, right? So like Nori obviously comes on a blockchain with like a Nori certificate. Charm Industrial just has like a code, they have like their serial number. Pretty much everyone has some level of serial number. And so we're kind of using that as the foundation. And then we actually have them retire the credit with us at Thanks a Ton. So if you go on to Nori and you want to check the credit or something, it will say retired in Los Angeles County with Thanks a Ton. And then we generate our own certificate, which I can, maybe I'll pull up and show you. We just try to make a fun little certificate that has links to learn more, has the serial number, has the original supplier's logo and everything on there, so they understand where the credit's coming from. In terms of like, preventing kind of double counting and stuff like that, that's the best we've come up with so far. We are completely open to suggestions on how to improve upon that. But yeah, we do think, and so when you receive a card, you will get the card and then you'll also get the link to your certificate so that you can say, oh, let me see what this is. And then you get that, you have 1 ton of green sand mineralization.
Yeah, as far as the double counting thing, I mean, I personally believe it's incumbent on the provider to ensure that that's not happening and to be as open book and just provide as much proof as possible. I mean, I think the blockchain is definitely one good approach to essentially, retire and make sure that that never gets resold again. But I don't know how much you guys would be able to, I don't know, affect or something you definitely want to be cognizant of, right? And that's part of the quality control that you're providing as sort of an entree to various CDR providers is you've got to keep your suppliers on the up and up and make sure that you're working with, and it seems like you are only the most reputable providers. So any sort of double counting issues don't end up in your realm.
We are also
There
working
are some subtle
exclusively with
nuances.
removals. Go ahead, Laura. Oh, I think you were frozen for a second there. What was that, Laura?
Oh, there are some subtle nuances with our credits. Credits are for carbon that's already, and some of them are for carbon that is going to be removed. So for example, Charm Industrial, they're in the process of removing it. So by our contract, they're saying they will remove it during, I think it was a 6-month window following the purchase. So initially we would provide a placeholder certificate number that we can replace later with the actual certificate.
And just be transparent, I think, is the key to that. Say like, your credit is like in the queue for being removed or whatnot, or whatever it is. And also getting people to understand that like reforestation, for example, is kind of nature's way of prolonging that too. You plant the tree and then it has to grow and photosynthesize and store the carbon that way. And so kind of just getting people knowledgeable about that concept of like, what is it to sequester and remove CO2? Does it happen when I click this button? And the answer is sometimes it has already happened. Sometimes the answer is no, it hasn't happened yet. And just being transparent about that, I think, and kind of also using that as an education opportunity.
Definitely. Yeah, it's all an education opportunity. And I think that's a big sort of service that you provide to the world by simply existing is the education is so critical. And I think it's important. People need to know about CDR, and this is a great way to do it. As far as like, let's talk about acquiring customers. I know we touched on the initial launch concept being going to consumers. I'm going to guess a lot of that's going to be sort of friends and family, but I mean, I don't know, give us a taste of the marketing plan to start and who you think the customers are going to be.
That marketing plan, that robust marketing plan that we have. So we joke that it's guerrilla marketing to start, right? So we're just going to, our big marketing plan is to send people thank you cards, kind of key friends, and hope it kind of catches on. And obviously, we'll announce when it's live. Everybody on this call, I'm sure you're on AirMiners or on some of our Slack communities. We'll throw it out there that, hey, we're live. You can get a card now and gift a card. We are doing what we're calling as, again, I don't think I explained this, but we're doing a limited launch for, excuse me, for 1 month. And this is our way to kind of put our beta out there, MVP, test some assumptions, and then we're going to pause and kind of tweak the site as needed, although I'm sure we'll be tweaking it as we go. And then kind of in October, hopefully around COP26, we can relaunch in a more permanent fashion. But this first launch, it's just going to be the current inventory we have, kind of get them while you can. And that way we get some data points, we get to kind of understand what's happening here. Is this even a viable startup?
Right.
Yeah.
We can test our supply chain. We can test our website, make sure that all of the functionality is in place. No surprises.
That's important. I think that's a good move is this limited launch, see what you can learn and take that and figure out, you might have to go back to the drawing board on a couple of things, maybe not, maybe, you've nailed it. And then you know when you can start really pushing the market and trying to increase volume quite a bit. I did want to bring up Jack Sullivan had a question on if you guys are thinking about enticing collaborative group gifting. And his thinking was it's got a better potential to go viral and potentially entice smaller dollar amount contributions from more folks. So sort of adding awareness, more volume, smaller dollar amounts, and how collaborative group gifting might
Absolutely.
work in that
Oh my
strategy.
God. Work with Kara. Well, you know, Jeremy, but like she has a bazillion ideas. And so, yes, we want to be able to, in the future, sell in smaller quantities. We're thinking about selling telegrams, and that way it's a gram.
I see what you
we're
I
did.
have to, sorry, just to interrupt, I have to give credit where credit is due. The first person to say that was a few months ago. It was Grant, who's on this call.
Yeah.
It was Grant's idea.
Nice one, Grant.
We're also thinking about like how to do it in different languages. Right now it's all, you know, the pun is an English pun, so you have to like speak English, but Kara's in Paris and I'm in Mexico. And so we're thinking of like fun ways to do it in French and Spanish. We love the idea of collaborative gifting, especially for the more expensive things like Charm Industrial, you know, it's a $600 card. But we think there's people within these climate communities that have done so much for the community. And so if we can kind of band together and then buy some of the more expensive removals as a gift for them, I think that's really powerful and meaningful. We really enjoy gift giving. I hate things though. I am not a thing person. Please don't ever give me tactile gifts, but I love when people donate in my name or when it's something that's positive that's happening and it's a gift, but I don't actually have to have the trinket. So yeah, we think there's a real opportunity for collaborative. And we would love to kind of, right, our beta will not have that. If you want to buy, you know, a larger, more expensive ton, you're going to have to do the old fashioned pass the hat around the office kind of thing to collect the money, because there's not going to be a way to have like multiple people enter credit cards or multiple people have the link. But we would like for that to happen in version 1.2 or version 3.0.
I think that like the corporate gifting world is, I mean, that I don't know how big that industry is, but it's probably in the billions of dollars, where you can, you know, like you can go on and buy a bunch of mugs or pens or water bottles with your company name on them, and you send them out and people are like, oh, great, another pen. You know, it's nice, but as you said, it's a thing, right? And then you end up with a desk that I won't, you know, that looks like mine, full of things that you're like, what do I do with this stuff? I love the gift that is really about sort of the signaling and the power behind it versus a physical object that I now, like, I have pens. I don't need any more pens, but thank you very much. But I think that that's a really cool market to go after, because it seems like there's just a lot of, everyone's doing the same thing out there as far as corporate gifting. We've got you. You want a fruit basket or a bunch of koozies, you know, beer koozies or whatever. Like, everyone's over that stuff. I think that's have you guys thought about sort of?
I hope they're over that stuff, because those stuff tend to have pretty high carbon footprints. And especially, you know, in this day and age when you're mailing them to you know, to different employees across the country and across the globe. I hope that there's an appetite for corporate gifting that is pulling carbon out of the atmosphere or planting trees or, you know, doing something that has a climate positive result. We would love to work with companies to do corporate gifting. We think that's a great idea. Again, B2B would be a great way for us to scale in the future. So yeah, if anybody knows corporations that are just like dying to send tons of carbon removal, let us know.
Yeah, I wish I'd done a little homework beforehand, is because this idea really just popped into my head. But you could, you know, you could go on and look on Google search trends and kind of see with certain keywords, like, are people searching for earth friendly, you know, to figure out what sort of terms people are using, but earth friendly corporate gifts or climate neutral corporate gifts or thing. My guess is that volume on those types of searches is increasing. And if you get the right combinations of keywords, you can really sort of bring real people into your business through like Google Ads and things like that, which is, you know, it's pretty traditional marketing, but that stuff works.
Absolutely. We're still trying to figure out like our market share. Like, are we a green gifting company? Are we an offset purchasing company? You know, we try to avoid the term offsets.
Yeah.
Because we think right now the way you can buy carbon dioxide removal is you can be buying on behalf of your company for corporate offsets, or you can be going onto one of the great platforms for personal offsets that already exist, and you can offset your flight. I do it. I support it. But we think there's a place for just like taking kind of the guilt out of carbon dioxide removal. And we're not asking you to calculate your footprint. I personally think everyone should, but that's not what this is about. We want to kind of take the guilt out of it and have it just be fun and playful and gratitude rich, because maybe it's because we're all parents, but we've discovered that like guilting is not a motivator in our families. And that if you want to motivate them, it has to be fun and exciting and joyful and something you want to share. And so we think there's an opportunity in the carbon dioxide removal space to really kind of change the narrative and reshape the narrative of this component of like, of personal interacting with carbon dioxide removal. Again, we love everything that we're seeing currently on the market, but we think there's a space to have it be fun and to smile. I don't think people typically like get really excited and smile when they're offsetting their footprint. I don't. I just, go to Climeworks and I calculate how much my flight was. But
it feels good. It might not be outwardly joyful, but it and people do it, I guess, because maybe they feel less bad, which is the guilt thing. People would rather feel good. And I think through this, like this is an avenue to like put a smile on people's face. Like it's actually it's a gift rather than a tithing or like I really should do this so that I don't feel so terrible about myself. It's a key distinction. It makes it a much more fun product and stickier product to sell. Siobhan, when you and I talked, one of the interesting things that you brought up is just that every gift is at least two parties, right? Which is cool from a marketing perspective. So everyone involved, every time a sale happens, there's two, and there's the gifter and the giftee. So it gives you that opportunity to bring in two people every time, so that you get that sort of that exponential growth potentially. We had one of our anonymous attendee had brought up an interesting, I think, related concept of sort of pay it forward. So gifting involving enticing recipients to then also gift. Is that something you guys are thinking about as far as like how to capture that? Again, like you've got two people involved as customers each time. How do you get them to then be two more from those two? So then you've got 4, then you've got 8. So it is exponential.
That's the goal. I mean, without shoving it down their throats, we definitely have, when you get the card, you'll also see an option, not too subtle, not too obvious, to gift a card yourself. Hopefully people do that. That's kind of the whole idea is, that it'll catch on. It'll be this thing where people want, and you'll be able to share the cards to social media. So you can be like, oh my God, my boss is so cool. Just gave me this ton of removed carbon dioxide. And then you can tweet the image, the thank you card image. So.
That's awesome. Are there any competition? Is there any competition in this space, or is this, it feels very
wouldn't we like to know? That kind of comes back to the whole evaluating where we fit in the market ecosystem. So again, are we a green gifting company? Is Hallmark our competition? Is selling reusable flatware as a gift our competition? Where do we really fit in the ecosystem? And we haven't totally figured that out yet. Part of it is we're bootstrapped and we haven't really been able to afford any of those kind of market evaluation services, which would be great. So yeah, we are not really sure what the competition would be like. Is it people that offer offsets? Is it people that offer thank you cards? Is it people that offer green gifts? I don't know. Please let us know if you think who our competition is and who we should keep an eye on. Let us know.
Yeah, and another way to think about it is any of those entities that you mentioned, whether it's offset providers or thank you card, greeting card companies, also potentially collaborators, right? They're also potentially ways to increase your market share and to say, hey, look, I've got an add-on for your product. And those are collaborations that could lead to huge new markets and open up a whole lot for you guys. So sometimes it's funny to spin these things on their head and say, it's competition, or it's potentially it's a great opportunity to go out and see how a partnership might look with these different types of entities. Hallmark, we've all heard of Hallmark. Maybe they've suddenly
Call us
sprung
up, Hallmark.
climate consciousness, or you could be the one that brings that to them, and now you've got a solution for them. So I know we talked about like this is not a thing, but sometimes it is nice to have a little thing so that you can really think about, like, to remind you of the gift, right? To remind you of this ton of carbon that someone has gifted you, right? So to go back and sort of go a slightly different direction of, you're gifting, but you're not giving a thing. Have you thought about a thing? Have you thought about a bracelet made out of removed carbon, which
Like negative, yeah. No, we've definitely thought about if there was a way to gift a carbon negative thing that, including transport and the whole life cycle analysis, could be at worst carbon neutral. Yeah, we'd be totally open to doing something like that and collaborating with people who make those products and stuff. That'd be super cool. But again, like we really want to dig in, like we need carbon dioxide removal so badly, and we need it to scale so quickly, and we need it to be quality, and we need to be successful. And so we need lots more people to be aware of it. I think about the comparison to solar a lot, and how in the 90s, maybe you didn't know really what solar panels were or what they were doing or if they were viable or any of these things. And now it's like everybody knows what, no matter what community or culture you come from, you're aware of that. And so how can we kind of truncate that timeline for carbon dioxide removal? How can we get it to be really massively understood and valued? And I think part of valuing it is that sense of not being like, oh, I want to avoid that because I feel guilty about it, or it's like I emitted and I have to clean it up now. It's like, no, like it's everybody's problem. It's there. Let's clean it up and let's get excited about it. Like, it's pretty cool that we have the option to pull carbon dioxide out of the air. Like, let's celebrate that.
Agreed. So let's talk about your timeline real quick. So you guys are like a beta launch or a soft launch is coming up. What's
the timeline. Oh, the timeline. I mean, our timeline constantly changes. One thing I have definitely learned in startup life is that everything takes longer than you think it will. There is always some bug or something, or nobody looked at the copy and edited it, or no, there's just like always something that delays you, is what I'm finding. And so I will tentatively say, I will say with confidence that by the end of this month. Yes, Laura, Kara, thumbs up, confidence. By the end of this month.
It could be 2 weeks from now, and it could be a little bit longer. I don't think it'll happen within the week, but it depends on how fast we can. Siobhan showed you the beta, which we just got
today.
And once we implement those changes, we'll send it out to the suppliers just to have them check and make sure they're comfortable with everything on the site, and maybe ask for feedback from a handful of people, friends and family, and then we'll post it. So it just depends on how long it takes to implement any of the changes, and also how many changes we need. So okay. I have a long list of like small changes. I don't, we have to test out the card mechanism and make sure that's working properly. And the other thing is that this will be available on mobile devices as well. So one of the things our developers had a lot of difficulty with is getting all the bugs worked out for every type of mobile device, as well as just a normal computer web browser.
Those darn Android users, they're like 10% of the population, and you're doing 50% of the work just for them. Get an iPhone, people.
Yeah. So we're trying to make sure that it works on any device. And so that's kind of been a bit of a holdup.
That's good. I mean, it's good to make sure everything works, obviously. The last thing you want is someone to get all pumped up and excited and then they run into tech problems and it doesn't work. So that's the prudent approach. But okay, so if you're watching this on YouTube right now, the date today is September 9th. So I would say check the website, thanksaton.com.
.earth.
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 Wish it was
Thanks.
a comma instead of a dot. So it could be thanks a ton, Earth.
Thanks a ton, Earth. Thanks a ton.earth. Check it out, or it should be ready by the time you see this, or maybe by October. So, but definitely pop onto the site. And if you're psyched to start gifting some carbon, don't delay. Hopefully they'll be up and running. I wanted to give you guys kind of, we're getting to the end of our hour. I want to give you guys kind of a chance for any parting words or anything you want to leave us with before we wrap up. And folks, if you have any more questions, feel free to jump in. If you have anything that's been that you've been wanting to ask, this would be the time. But we're sort of heading towards our little wind down.
Final thoughts, anybody? Final questions? Connect with us. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, or connect with us on LinkedIn. And, you know, if you're interested and you want to learn more or help out, I mean, I feel like we're a very collaborative team. We have people, as I said, that kind of jump in from our different communities and lend a hand here and there. And so we're always open to help.
That's great. And we'll get links for the website, for social and whatnot, and try to put those into the notes underneath the video that you're watching on YouTube right now. Good. Well, unless there's any other questions, I've very much enjoyed this and appreciate you all coming on to share your business concept. Good on all three of you for just starting something, for thinking of an idea and then having the moxie to be like, yeah, let's do this. And that's, I think I try to end with the same message every time. Just start, just 2 words, just start. If you have an idea, just try to take one step forward towards realizing that every day. And soon enough, you'll be like, hey, we're just working out a few kinks for the Android users and we're going to be launched pretty soon. We need 1,000 shots on goals. Tito likes to say, this is another shot on goal. So thank you guys for the work that you're doing. It's all in service of building up this CDR ecosystem and hopefully salvaging our atmosphere. So we appreciate you for that. And it's a really fun approach to doing it. I think people get pretty serious about saving the earth, which is good. But I like bringing the levity aspect to it as well. And gifting is such a nice thing to do. So yeah, next time holidays are coming up, start thinking about your holiday gifts, gift a ton. And you know how to get there. Thanks a ton.earth. And I guess at this point we will sign off. So thank you again, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks a ton for attending.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks for our audience.